Hello and welcome to All Walks of Film. I'm Ren.
I'm Casey.
And we are actually trying a new format for this podcast.
Yeah, we'll try some different things in upcoming episodes, see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, because I think it's important to evolve a show. Sometimes, usually, what I see online and various things is when you start seeing a dip or when you're not getting as many views or listens or whatever, you gotta change it up a little bit. So that's what we're gonna try to do. So first we're gonna start with what we saw this week. Starting off the week, we saw a movie called Stoker, which was
That's Park Chan-wook's English-speaking film. It's essentially his Snowpiercer, so to say.
Yeah, that was directed by Bong Joon-ho.
No, I know, but like Korean new way of making an English-speaking film through the Hollywood system.
Yeah, and it was the only Park Chan-wook film that I hadn't seen. I know you still have yet to see I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay.
And that's the only one. I've seen all the other ones.
Yeah, but yeah, I was really unimpressed by that film.
I was really unimpressed by that film too, especially because like as soon as the movie started, I was like, oh, this is Lolita. Okay. Which meant that I had, like, no mystery for the rest of the movie. Because, like, immediately I was like, okay, that's the twist. And every twist I could see coming from, like, a mile away, which is not Park Chan-wook's style at all. It was really tame. And a lot of it was just, like, really self-indulgent, where he had these shots that were really well composed, and the production design was really pretty, but it wasn't enhancing the story. It wasn't helping the narrative. It wasn't revealing anything about the characters. It was just, look at how good this shot is. Isn't it pretty? I was like, where's the information? And, you know, like, there's, like, slow burn, and then there's no burn. And this was, like, just no burn. Uninteresting.
Yeah, also the movie was really cold, and I wasn't like really invested in the characters, and I had some problems with The Handmaiden with that, but like this film, it just didn't feel like a Chanwook Park film in that way. Granted,
It felt like a Wes Anderson film, and I don't like Wes Anderson. For exactly that reason. He's cold. It's like, oh, pretty images, but cold characters and a plot that's not very compelling. And that's exactly what Stoker was. And a lot of the production design felt very Wes Anderson-y anyway.
it's weird because like Wes Anderson didn't start out his career like that either. His films are very warm.
I haven't seen his earliest films. Like,
Yeah,
I haven't
like-
seen his first two. But the only one I like really, really like is Moonrise Kingdom. Because that's this movie that shows how fucked up kids really are. And Fantastic Mr. Fox I like artistically, but story-wise, character-wise, I don't like it that much. Like, out of all the stop-motion films I know, that one's my least favorite.
I don't know what you'd think of Bottle Rocket, but I'm pretty sure that you would like Rushmore. Rushmore is a very good movie.
Okay. Well, I've also heard Grand Budapest Hotel is, like, really good, and people keep telling me, like, oh, if you don't like Wes Anderson, you have to see Grand Budapest Hotel, and I'm like, I have too many other, like, really great films I have to see. So I'm gonna go watch Stoker and get the exact same feeling.
So the other film that we saw was Doctor Strangelove, and in the wake of this political climate that we're in, we figured we'd get a little political and, you know, watch a movie that essentially lampoons the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what that movie is. This is one of the earlier Stanley Kubrick films. This was right before he got to his color films.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had Killer's Kiss, Fear and Desire,
Lolita. Speaking of film adaptations of Lolita that I don't like because they're too tame, Stanley Kubrick's Lolita film is like my least favorite Stanley Kubrick film ever. I don't think I'm gonna see another one that I dislike more than that.
Yeah, but you did like the
Jeremy Irons one is very good. It's not quite as good as the book, but overall, yeah, that's a great adaptation of Lolita. But the other Stoker and Stanley Kubrick's Lolita are both very tame. like ridiculously tame for the subject matter, which is why I don't like them.
To be fair, Lolita came out during a time period where they had
Psycho
to be...
came out during a time period where yada yada yada. Like, no.
Okay, having a killer, like a serial killer or whatever, is a lot less taboo than making a movie about a sympathetic pedophile.
Yeah, but at a certain point, I'm just like, if you can't do it right, why are you doing it? Like, how do you take a story about a pedophile and you make it boring? Like, you make it boring. How did you do that? In both cases, honestly. But...
yeah. And
now that I've just like completely squelched movies under my shoe, because yeah.
And we watched South Park and Westworld, and that's what
this episode of South Park was really weird. I was kind of taken aback by that, because they went dark last week because they were preparing 2 episodes depending on the outcome, and it was just a really odd episode.
I almost think that the episode that they made, if Clinton won, was better.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone was really counting on that happening.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if that actually comes up.
But that doesn't really fit the South Park narrative that much, because most of the narrative this season has been about how Mr. Garrison, quote unquote, has no idea how to be president. So you would think narratively for the season he would become president, and what's her name, Caitlyn Jenner will take over, as in like evil Mike Pence. That just fits the narrative better.
I thought it was interesting that they introduced Bill Cosby into
Bill and Bill, the Gentleman's Club.
Yeah, because I mean it's no secret that Bill Clinton has pretty shoddy past as far as it comes to women. I don't know the validity of the Lolita Express. Jeez, what is it with this episode in Lolita? Everything, comes back to that. Maybe we should do a podcast on Lolita at some time.
Yeah.
But that would actually require you to watch the Kubrick version again.
No, I don't need to watch it again. I watched it recently enough. I watched it 4 years ago.
I don't think that's recent enough.
I don't want to see that movie again.
You can at least appreciate the pretty shots.
Kubrick has better
it's
films.
Kubrick. It's Kubrick. Anyways, so other than that,
we've seen some trailers.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ghost in the Shell, because the first trailer that came out this week, well, it wasn't really a trailer, but it had interviews with Mamoru Oshii, and he says that ScarJo is a great casting choice, so back off, haters.
Yeah,
and by the way, it is definitely Tokyo, Japan, so all of your concerns were pretty valid, but back off, haters.
Yeah, also they designed Scarlett Johansson to look Asian in the movie. There's no avoiding that. She looks like they're trying to play her up as Japanese. And yes, I do know that the original author said that she was never intended to be Asian. Okay, well, why couldn't you have had more characters in the film in Tokyo be Asian? I understand.
But the interesting thing is that besides ScarJo, it is a pretty diverse cast ethnically, especially when you have somebody who is, to my understanding, he is half black, half Japanese. That's kind of interesting. But you don't really see that sort of thing in Japan a lot, unless they're really trying to push this Hong Kong futuristic cultural melting pot sort of thing, which has always been the inspiration.
Yeah, but it's weird for Japan just because Japan is so isolated.
Yeah, most of my problem isn't really with the majority of the casting. It isn't even the production design looks really good. My big problem is Scarlett Johansson, because A, she is typecasted as this non-human robotic entity, and she's not good at it.
It's under the skin all over again.
It's under the skin. It's her. It's her character that she actually did halfway decent in the Jungle Book. She's done it. God, she did it in something else too. Lucy. It's Lucy. You know, it's Black Widow. It's not different at all from Black Widow. And she's not good at it. She's not good at it at all. I don't know why she's typecasted in this, like, really cold, unfeeling, you know, action, non-human entity thing. And it's just, she can't pull it off convincingly. The only thing recently I've seen her do, because I didn't see Hail Caesar yet, but the only good thing I've seen her do recently was she had a very tiny part in Chef, where she was the girlfriend, like that was her character type, and she was good in that.
I
just
liked her
being
in
like a
Don
normal
Jon.
person. Yeah, but was she like a normal person in Don Jon?
She was a Jersey girl.
Yeah,
in Don Jon.
I can see that. You know, this whole it stands out to me in the trailers. Her acting is not good. She is not performing the Major well.
Also, the movie is rated PG-13, so none of the...
Bad.
None of the nudity is going to be present.
Which we've seen in the trailer now, because she just wears a white bodysuit, and that's it.
To be fair, I always thought it was weird in the original movie that she had a white bodysuit, but she was also nude and became invisible, and I was always like,
well,
why?
The reason why she's naked is because... Okay, I had thought this might not be true because it's been a long time since I've seen the anime, but I thought that the reason why was because if she wore clothing, the clothing would show. Like, she would just be like an invisible body inside a suit of clothing that's walking around. But also, it plays into her character type because it's kind of like Cortana in, I think it's Halo. She is not ashamed of her own nudity. She doesn't see anything wrong with that. So she doesn't care if she's walking around naked. Because to her, she's not nude. You know, it's just her body.
Well, yeah,
which I've always loved. I love that.
One of my favorite images in the film is when she's fighting.
At the
I don't
end,
know what it's
the
called.
part
Yeah.
where like her muscles are just like peeling off because she can't do it. Oh my god, that part's so good. I doubt we're gonna see anything like that because PG-13.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen Ghost in the Shell, it's an hour long.
Yeah.
Go watch it. I know that
And
you
try
said
not to
that the
fall
music.
asleep.
Yeah, you say that the music is.
The music is literally a lullaby. Like, it's that is the primary purpose of the music in the movie. And it's very effective.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I apologize for the background noise. I am going to do a little bit of editing around it, but if you hear like a loud whistle, it's the heater.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. But the other part of the ScarJo thing is just like, in this age of, you know, Oscars so white and whitewashing fucking everything, you know, this would be a really good opportunity to, I would almost prefer if it was somebody we'd never heard of, but to find a Japanese or Japanese American actress and promote somebody new, because that has been the hallmark now of financially viable films, is they take new actors that nobody's heard of, you know, like Daisy Ridley. Wait, is that her name? Ridley?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. You know, and put them in a big budget movie, and people are like, "Oh shit, it's somebody new. That's awesome!" And they're playing this iconic character.
You throw some recognizable actors in the background.
So then there's still some star power to it, but star power isn't bringing in the money like it used to anyway.
Yeah, like Star Wars had Sir Alec Guinness and James Earl Jones, and that was a selling point to some people. Obviously, Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford were not selling points for the original Star Wars.
But they sure as hell are now.
Yeah, but like the big selling point back then was just like, oh my god, this is like nothing you've ever seen before. But we need more movies like that, because also, like, I know that you have some criticism with the movie Avatar, but like Avatar isn't selling the actors. Avatar is selling, you know, come on this journey, come to this ride, and like,
it's selling the world, it's selling the visual effects, it's selling the new technology. I know.
I like when movies do that. I mean, granted, like, you have to have a story there, and quite frankly, that's where hopefully these years that Avatar hasn't come out with a sequel, they're actually working on making a substantial story, because right now I don't see it doing incredibly well after this next movie. Other than countries, you know, like China and various because it's going to make a shit ton in China. Like, that's just guaranteed.
Yeah.
I think it will have diminishing returns in the U.S., but it all depends on the trailer.
It does, but I mean, part of it is like, I don't think this is going to attract anyone who isn't a fan of the original Ghost of the Shell. I don't think people who are unfamiliar with the movie or the series are going to look at those trailers and be like, oh, I want to go see that movie. I really don't think that that's going to happen very much. And then for the fans of the TV show, of the movie, they're going to be mad because it's been whitewashed. They're going to be mad because... Well, they're also going to be mad because what is a Hollywood live-action anime adaptation that has done financially well? Even American anime didn't fucking work with The Last Airbender. Dragon Ball Z, did that work? No.
Actually, I think the Airbender movie was financially viable, but
it was not a success.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
And I've actually had some arguments with some people because they're like, oh, well, the movie made this much over its production, therefore it's a success. Well, to be clear, yes, a movie can still be a financial success to a certain extent, but it's a failure when you have stuff like toys, you have all this stuff that they're
like
marketing.
Merchandise that nobody buys, you know?
Yeah, like, that's one thing that whenever they talk about, like, box office returns, and it's like, that's the theater. They spend a whole bunch of money on other stuff that people aren't buying.
Yeah, you know, like DVD sales and that kind of thing, too.
Yeah, so...
It all plays into it.
Right.
So, like, if it doesn't even meet the break-even number, that's, like, horrifyingly bad. But even if it makes, like, a little bit over that number, that's still not very good. Because once you get over that number, that's when you start making a profit. If you make $1,000 in profit, is that really a financially successful film?
No.
No. You know, I would say probably, like, for really big movies, if you're making anything less than $100,000 profit, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know, independent films are very different.
Yeah, independent films are more selling the brand than...
Well, they're selling the brand. They're trying to sell, like, a specific film as opposed to, like, make a franchise. They're not really selling merchandise. They're not trying to, like, promote toys or t-shirts or whatever. But also, like, you know, if your film cost, you know, let's say maybe $150,000 to make, and you make
that's like no film now.
Yeah, exactly. But like if, for example, it cost $150,000 to make, and your film made like $250,000 overall, I mean that's still $100,000 profits. You know, that's about a third or 2/3 of what you spent on it. That's decent for an independent film.
Yeah, but like
Hollywood films don't operate that way, like, at all, because they're always trying to promote a million other things.
Well, yeah, and even if your movie like costs $150 million to make and you make $50 million over that's still kind of bad. Mm-hmm. You know, like in the scale of things.
Yeah, but if you're like Ghostbusters and you can't even fucking make your break-even number, dear God.
And it was hilarious seeing articles that were like saying, no, the Ghostbusters was a success.
Paul Feig is still backing that horse. He is still like, hey guys, go buy the DVDs because then maybe we'll get our sequel. No, dude. No. You failed. Badly. Go home.
Yeah, it's also funny that
like do something else. I'm not saying like retire as a filmmaker. I'm not that mean, but I'm just saying like go home, do something else. Get the fuck away from this project. Maybe if you really, really want, come back much later. But don't keep backing this right now. It didn't work. So just clear your brain, do something else, maybe come back and revisit it later, figure out what the issue was. Everyone on the internet has said it pretty loudly and clearly, but...
Yeah.
This Manchester by the Sea trailer... Okay, the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, cool, I'll watch that. It's about, you know, this man who is trying to learn to be a single father.
But
cool.
it's in every
It's
fucking
every theater.
movie.
And the ending is so obnoxious and so poorly dubbed with the "It's not a shock."
Yeah,
it's not a shock.
Like,
oh dear God.
look at the kid's mouth. Like, seriously,
Oh,
if you see it
God.
if you see this trailer in the theater, pay
The
close
trailer
attention
gets
to his
worse
mouth.
and worse every time. Like this blonde woman, like her wig is so fucking terrible.
You mean Michelle Williams?
Yeah, because like I get that you can already tell because they give away the entire fucking story in every trailer now. You could tell that partway through she went through some sort of like personal, meltdown and she cut off all her hair. But the actress wouldn't do it, so you can tell earlier in the preview she has like this long blonde hair and it's real. And then you could tell in all the photos and all the trailers that she's wearing this super shitty wig. It's like, oh god, that's embarrassing. The song is starting to kill me now too. I'm just like, fuck this trailer.
The Coca-Cola song?
No, the I am coming home. I'm like,
okay, yeah.
The Coca-Cola song is murder now.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Because they give us one commercial.
No, they give us one commercial with the song that is followed up by another commercial that has a much better song in it that is not a Coca-Cola song. Talking about how love hurts you sometimes, like it's actually like a decent song. And then right before your movie starts, so as long as you're on time, there is nothing you can do to avoid it. They started having these Coca-Cola trailers where like it's like High School Musical style with everybody doing a cappella with the popcorn and the soda bottles, and it's fucking obnoxious.
Also, why does the black guy gotta be the only person who spills the popcorn? I've watched it several times now, and you're like, somebody else spills the popcorn. No, it's just the black person.
Okay.
That's nitpicking. I
It
know.
is.
That's,
The song is only 2 lines. It's only 2 lines, and it is like one of the worst things I've ever heard. It makes me seriously never want to drink Coca-Cola again.
Yeah.
Like, it literally makes me never want to support Coca-Cola ever again. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons why you should never support Coca-Cola, but, like, this might be one of the most compelling reasons.
And this is going to be
song.
this is going to be, like, a commercial that we see for, like,
Forever!
At least, like, 2-3 years from now.
At least 3 to 5 years.
I mean, because how long
were like those little red bubbles, like the little red circle figures that were like superheroes and putting the cups together? They were like little red dot emojis.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, like how many years were those in?
Then there was the one that, like, I didn't like the thing, but I kind of like the fact that it was like, hey, watch the movie, don't talk on your don't text on your cell phone. And it was like, I didn't really like it.
We don't even get those, like, notices anymore of, like, please don't disturb people,
Yeah, because people don't give a shit. People will be a fucking asshole regardless.
Yeah. Well, now, like, the past several movies we've been to, they haven't even had a notice saying, like, don't talk on your cell phone, guys. Like, they literally don't even do those anymore.
Yeah, instead we gotta watch a fucking Coke commercial.
Yeah. 3 of them. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, and how long was it that we saw that Eminem commercial? You know, the one where it was like...
Oh, the one where they're, like, spies, but it's supposed to be
movie?
fun. Yeah. They actually recently stopped playing those, like, every single movie.
Yeah, because they were playing that,
only, like, a couple months ago.
Yeah, but they were playing that commercial for, like...
A few years.
Over 10, I think.
I don't think it was 10 years, but it was a long-ass time, yeah.
Yeah, it was...
Yeah. But you know what? Even if you were annoyed with that, that wasn't a song. That wasn't something that gets stuck in your head and you're humming all the time.
Yeah, because you saw me today.
Yeah, today when we were on our way to the movie theater, you were singing that the whole way, and now I hate you.
Yeah, it got stuck in my head. Fucking song.
Oh my god. So the other thing that I was super excited about, and I'm really miffed about this week, is they finally released the name of the writer of the new Birds of Prey movie, which I've been really excited about, because Margot Robbie has had a lot of creative input in this quote-unquote spin-off Harley Quinn movie, but they've said that it's gonna have, like Poison Ivy, it's gonna have Batgirl, like it looks like it's gonna be a Birds of Prey film.
Yeah, it's gonna be a rogues gallery of
the Birds of Prey, which would be fucking awesome. You have Catwoman in there, possibly like the Black Canary. That would be really interesting. But she personally recruited a writer, and all we knew for a while was it was a female writer. Okay, whatever. And the Mary Sue came out with this article where they were boasting about, like, oh, this movie is going to have women in front of and behind the camera. But literally all we know is that it's Margot Robbie and this woman. Like, that's two people.
So in other words, it's probably going to be as well received as the TV show, The Birds of Prey.
Well, here's the thing. The woman who is writing the Birds of Prey movie is Christina Hodson, who so far has done one movie called Shut In that is in theaters and I've never heard of and I don't know anything about. She's going to work on this Harley Quinn project, and she's writing the next Transformers movie, the Bumblebee movie. Red flag right up there. Because A, she's inexperienced. Obviously, she has one feature film to her name, and now all of a sudden she's on two major franchise products, and one of them is fucking Michael Bay's Transformers.
But the new Transformers movie is going to star a female this time.
If there is anything I can judge at face value, it's going to be fucking Transformers. I have seen all 4 Transformers movies. They're all god-awful.
Wait, aren't there 5 Transformers movies?
Is it 5?
Fuck, I don't know.
Okay, I've seen 1 through 3, and then I saw Age of Extinction. That's the 4th one, and then the Bumblebee is going to be the 5th one,
Wait,
right?
was Dark of the Moon the 3rd one?
Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Age of Extinction was the 4th one, and now the Bumblebee one's the 5th one. But yeah, so there's that, and I am devastated.
Yeah.
That's not what I was hoping. I was hoping it was going to be a comic book writer. Like, Jesus Christ, when can we get comic book writers to write the comic book movies? Oh, wait, we did that. We let Joss Whedon try that. That didn't work that well.
Well, that's because Joss Whedon didn't direct.
Well, he didn't write the Avengers.
Yeah, he didn't write. I mean, he might have written like one line or something like that, but like it was very clear that he didn't get a full grasp on the Avengers characters. Instead, he wanted to.
He did a lot better job than whoever the fuck did Avengers 2. Well, that was also him. Shit.
Yeah, keep the Rousseau brothers doing the Avengers movies. I like them.
Okay.
They did the Winter Soldier and Civil War. Mm-hmm. So I like those movies. I want them to be the ones making those movies.
Okay.
All right, so we saw 2 movies this weekend.
Yes.
And those 2 movies were Loving, the new film by Jeff Nichols.
Yep.
And we saw The Arrival, which is the new
movie by the guy who did Sicario and Prisoners. I don't know his name, but I just know, like, it's the Sicario dude.
I forget his name, too.
It's Sicario dude. Like, that was the big selling point of the movie, was, like, from the guy who brought you Sicario, which everybody loved, and I hated. But, yeah, we saw Loving first. And it was really nice to see another Jeff Nichols movie this year, because Midnight Special wasn't a bad movie at all. It was a decent movie, but it was disappointing because it was Jeff Nichols' first Hollywood movie, and you could see those Hollywood grip marks all over the film, and that was kind of disappointing.
It also seemed that he was trying to grasp at some ideas, but they weren't fully formed. Mm-hmm. Like, it just felt rough around the edges. And
it did.
For a Jeff Nichols film, like, after Mud and Take Shelter, like,
it was a little disappointing, yeah. And then Loving felt authentically Jeff Nichols. And I was also excited because Ruth Negga is one of the only things I really, really liked about Preacher. Her character was terrible, really badly written, but as an actress, she was really pulling it together, and she had to pick up a lot of slack.
Yeah, because it's bad writing.
It's bad writing, and it's bad acting from the other actors.
Yeah, Cassidy is the worst.
Yeah, really bad. But Jess is pretty bad too.
If you've ever met somebody from Ireland, you would know how grating his fake accent is. Mm-hmm.
But I was really excited to see that she was going to be a Jeff Nichols movie, because I was excited to see her work with really good material. And she was fantastic in the movie. I was so happy that she had something really good to work with.
Yeah, so I hope she does some acting outside of Preacher, like continuing on.
Yeah, I hope she just gets bigger and bigger because she deserves it.
Yeah, she does.
She deserves much better than Preacher.
She's fantastic. And Joel Edgerton, he's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah. Joel Edgerton's in this. Michael Shannon's in it. Like,
for like a minute.
But it was cool because he was not a Michael Shannon character.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't like talking with a raspy voice,
he
really
was like this
and all this kind of stuff.
hotshot, city slicker sort of photographer for Life magazine. It was really interesting. He was wearing fucking khakis. It was cool, and he did a good job. Yeah. That was awesome.
Because usually when I think of Michael Shannon, I think of the guy in the corner who's like, "Yep, that'll do.
Well, we already had that with Joel Edgerton's character.
Yeah,
Richard.
Yeah, that would be a little too much.
Speaking of, one of the things I loved about this movie is I could tell you everybody's name in this movie. Yeah, I like it when movies do that. Yeah.
Yeah, the movie established their characters very well.
Yeah, because you had Richard Perry Loving, you had Mildred Dolores, I can't remember her main name. Oh well, Loving, and then they had 3 kids, and it was Sydney, Donald, and Peggy. It's not that hard, but a lot of movies, sometimes by the end of it, I'm like, I don't even know who's who. I know the actors, I guess.
Yeah, and it is really cool to see another film about love between, people of color. Because we just saw Moonlight as well, which was like a week prior.
Well, that's more of like socially unaccepting romance, I guess.
Yeah, but like this is during a time where like this was very bad.
Yeah, of course.
And it was a beautiful film, and I liked how both characters were balanced, and it started
really
off
well balanced because they were so equal to each other in like terms of their screen, like how much time they had on screen. But then also in terms of their autonomy, they both impacted the plot from like a narrative perspective equally. They both were doing stuff, and they went back and forth between supporting each other. It wasn't just, oh, well, you have so-and-so, and this is their personal story, and their spouse is there to support them in whatever they do, and that's it.
And I will say the trailer of this movie gives away the entire story, but like it's based on a true story, so it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's still worth seeing. Yeah.
The production design was also phenomenal.
Yeah, for Mildred's.
Well, for everything, but yeah, it was great because part of Mildred makes the clothes for the family, which is something poor people could do at that time, because that was more financially sustainable. But it wasn't really, like, very explicit, but you could see, like, there were props that were her sewing materials, and you could tell, like, with the kind of fabrics and with the kind of silhouettes that they were very handmade, nicely made. But, like, you could tell they didn't go out shopping for clothes, except for, like, Richard's work clothes, maybe. It's just that kind of attention to detail really made the film feel authentically period. Like, we've been bitching about that trailer for the new World War II movie with Brad Pitt. Cause it looks,
Allied, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, Allied. Because it looks so phony. Because everything is, like, too nice, too polished, too slick. Like, it doesn't feel period at all.
Well, that's kind of my problem with a lot of period pieces, is the fact that, like, they don't put any dust, they don't, like, wear anything. Like, everything just looks, like, half the props look like manufactured plastic. Yeah. And, like, they didn't have that stuff back then. Right. So it looks weird.
It does. King Kong was definitely like that. Peter Jackson's King Kong was 100% like that, for sure.
Yeah, the first thing I noticed, and one thing that I liked, was Richard Loving has really disgusting teeth.
Yeah, but, oh my god, Richard Loving was he was so compelling. I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually the biggest similarity I think Loving has to Moonlight, where both films are so effective at taking very quiet, introverted characters and making them so compelling and relatable. They don't have to talk a lot or go out and do, like, big, huge things, like, they're just people.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the movie, I was actually kind of worried that the movie was focusing too much on Richard and not enough on Mildred. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh, well, Jeff Nichols is usually, addressing masculinity and everything like that. So I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. And then the film flipped. Yeah. And then it gave the side of Mildred, who was a lot more outspoken. Her role was more about the civil rights issue, and he just loved her.
Yeah, he just wanted their marriage to be resolved, and for them
he
to not have any issues.
He wanted to keep her safe and everything like that. Like, and I mean, I think the craziest coincidence is this is the most contrived name.
Yeah,
for two people, but like that's reality. Like,
because that's who they really were. That was their actual name. Yeah, that was the name of the actual case too. Was Loving versus the state of Virginia.
Yeah. But it's so perfect that their name is Loving, and it's a movie about the right to love whoever you want. And I think it's very interesting that this movie comes out now, because the whole Defense of Marriage Act is under fire right now. I know a lot of people are scared about the new Trump election, especially with Mike Pence, that their right to equal gay people and transgender people's right to marry might be under fire because of who's in power right now. I think it's too much work for them to stop it.
Yeah.
Where it is right now, I think that is a little too much fear-mongering, but I understand the worry.
I mean, yeah, like, if you look at it, even once equal marriage was passed federally, a lot of people didn't go out and get married right away. Well, a lot of people went out and got married right away, and a lot of people didn't for the same reason, because they were terrified that it was going to get repealed. Well, they were terrified that it was going to be gone in a couple months.
That happened. Like, there were some people who got married, and then it got repealed.
Well,
and then
that's what happened, like, in a lot of states. So when it happened federally, there were still those concerns where it was like, if we get married now, is that going to be null and void in a couple months? Or there were people who were like, if we wait, we won't have this opportunity anymore. It'll be gone. So we have to go do it now. Wow. Yeah, Loving and Moonlight had a lot of similarities in that respect, where they were just trying to address that, like, come on, guys. I think we all know this, but love is love.
That stuff's gonna take time, because some people don't recognize that, and some people will say, okay, well, I get it, but once you start incorporating sex, then that's when I have a problem. It's like,
yeah, some people still think that if you're gay, it means you're a pedophile. Some people still completely believe that that's true.
Well, speaking on that, it's partly due to possibly a misread of the Bible, where the Bible does actually condone homosexual acts, but it's so intertwined with pedophilia in those parts where I think they were talking about child slaves, but since there was no concept of like age of consent back then, it's kind of hard to determine what was right and wrong and everything like that. But at the same time,
it's
the
not
biggest
like we have
issue,
that situation now.
Yeah, but like the biggest issue was like, who's going to carry on the family line? If you're gay, then you're not having children, obviously.
Yeah, but now you can adopt, you can have fertilization, whatever, and B, we're so fucking ridiculously overpopulated as a planet. I don't think that this whole thing of carrying on a family line is really worth bothering with anymore. Let's be honest. If people don't want to have kids, let them not have kids. We don't need additional kids. Really. But going back to Loving, yeah, this is another example of going into traditional masculinity, because Richard's character, he was so endearing, for one. Like, he doesn't talk a lot, but he's so endearing. And he cries. He gets scared. A lot of the movie is him just, like, completely terrified, really nervous. He's shy. but he's still like such a man's man. Like
that's what I like about Jeff Nichols. Like, he addresses masculinity in a way that I don't see many films get into. Mainly because sometimes, especially nowadays, filmmakers are so interested in being progressive and having women and like gay characters and all this kind of stuff that like traditional masculinity oftentimes gets thrown to the wayside.
It either gets thrown to the wayside or outright condemned.
Yeah, or you have stereotypically stoic males that, you know, don't cry and all that kind of stuff. Like, I remember when the TV show Lost came out, and I actually was really fascinated with Jack's character because he was a man who wore his emotions on his sleeves, and everybody made fun of that.
Yep.
But I saw it as a realistic portrayal.
Well, the other thing I really like about Jeff Nichols is he really brings out the best in Southern culture, which I like. Southern culture is not inherently evil and horrible. You know, if you look at the way that this film just makes construction work look so good. Like, it looks so romantic in this film, and construction work is not romantic at all, let's be honest.
I would say more recently he has, because like his first film really doesn't put Arkansas in a good light.
It's Arkansas. Like, it's amazing that he has any films that put Arkansas in a good light, because it's fucking Arkansas.
Yeah.
I know, I just said that, but like, God, Arkansas. It's hard not to like talk about any southern state and be like, oh, fuck that state. But that's not really what it's like. Like, me living in the South, I should be more forgiving, and even I'm still like, oh, fucking Texas, fucking Virginia.
But to be fair,
you know?
You came from Austin, Texas, which is like one of the most liberal cities in the United States.
I've been all around southern states.
Okay.
It's not as if, like, you know, it's... The South is more culturally diverse than that, especially nowadays when you have major metropolitan cities all over the South. You know, you do have very similar culture to the North, depending on where. Like, I went from Texas to New York, and there was, like, no culture shock. It wasn't really very different. Because they're major metropolitan areas, you know? But, you know, you still look at the South and you're like, oh, fuck the South. But it's not as if the North is so great either, you know. The United States is pretty much the same all over. It has a variety, you know.
Yeah, because aren't most of the Black Lives Matter instances in northern states?
I have no numbers or statistics to back that up. I don't know.
Most of the big ones that I know of happen like New York, and Baltimore.
I mean, yeah.
You know, northern states.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've been to about a quarter of the states in the United States, north, south, east, and west, you know. And really it's more of just a difference between metropolitan and rural culture. It's more of what it comes down to instead of just fucking south and fucking north, you know.
Honestly, that was one of the things that I liked about this movie, because they did show that, like, deep Southern culture that's positive.
Exactly.
Where, you know, like, people are just, like, hanging out and having a good time. One of the things that I fucking hate about the North is people are so cold. They're so fucking busy. You don't see people, like, hanging out with people outside of their circle of influence. You don't see people meeting each other. There's no sense of community. It's just, I mean, you know, in online communities don't fucking count.
No. There's, like, a difference between knowing who your neighbors are.
Exactly.
You know? But, I mean, again, that is sort of, like, the difference between rural and metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Like, even in Texas, if you go to Houston, you don't talk to your neighbors. You don't fucking talk to anybody. It's the same thing as if you live in Chicago or New York. But if you go outwards into, like, the rural countryside, yeah, you know who lives around you because it's not a lot of people.
Yeah, also suburban areas. Like, suburban areas, they will know you. You might not want to know them, but they will definitely know you.
Yeah, that's true.
My stepdad, who lived with us for a good period of time, a black male, because this is relevant actually to the movie, lived in the suburbs when he was dating my mom, and yeah, we had a lot of onlookers that were just like, you know, who thought the relationship was weird. You know, it was still backwoods even in like 2000. So we still have progress to be made. I mean, like, I did think it was interesting because I normally don't see interracial relationships with white men and black women shown on screen.
And especially when it's not playing off of some sort of stereotype. You know, when it's not played as like a gimmick or a joke.
What do you mean?
Like a lot of times when you see that specific thing of like white men and black women, it's like a joke.
How so?
Of like maybe not in movies, but this is something I've heard a lot of people joke about, like in conversation, you know, of, or maybe it's like the other way. I kind of don't want to get into it. Sorry, I shouldn't have brought it up.
Okay then. All right, so overall, I thought Loving was a great movie, and I'm pretty sure that it will be the safe movie for the Oscars, because there's nothing really offensive about this movie.
I wonder if it's big enough to make it to the Oscars, though. I think so, because it's by Paramount, isn't it? It's wait, it's
Focus Features,
which is a Comcast company, so that is a bigger deal.
Yeah, I think that this is a film...
But it's not quite like Midnight Special, where it's like through the Hollywood system, is it?
I think this is bigger than Midnight Special. I also think the box office returns for this movie will be bigger than Midnight Special.
I hope so, because this movie was really fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what gets nominated in January.
Did you get teary-eyed?
I got a little teary-eyed.
I got teary-eyed.
It wasn't as bad as Moonlight.
That's true.
But...
You were just like, you were like a puddle of tears.
Well, it's partly because in Moonlight, I didn't know what was going on. And so everything that was unfolding was, brand new to me.
Yeah. For me, like, the part that got me all teary-eyed was when he was trying so hard to take care of his family. And there's just, like, all these circumstances that have nothing to do with anything, almost. It has nothing to do with who they are. Just fucking with them, you know? It was just so sad. Jeff Nichols has always been really good at directing kids. And the kids aren't very prevalent in this story, but they're kids. They're children. Like, they're real. They're not, like, obnoxious. I especially love the little girl, how he's like, hey, dust this off. You want to see how to do it? And she's like, yeah. And then she's like, never mind, I'm going to go run around. Okay.
But, like, so often you see in movies where, like, these kids feel like fucking wooden puppets. Yeah.
They're always written too old or too young. And it's really awkward when they're written too young. When they're, like, 9 years old and they're still, like, drawing their words out because they're trying to act like they're really young. Like, 3 years old. And they're, like, clearly almost 10. That's always really, really awkward. But they were just kids.
Yeah. So, overall, I don't really have, like, ups and downs.
It was
as far as
just, like, ups.
Yeah.
Like, every note was really on point. I think what I liked most about it was the overarching story of, hey guys, it's wrong to judge people because of their race, that wasn't the prevailing message of the movie. Most of the movie was just, this is a love story.
Yeah, and so often we see, like, the other way around, where it's like, these two people, they fall in love, and then by the circumstances, everything clashes around them, and their families are, like, fighting and all this kind of stuff.
And the characters end up becoming constructs to serve, a political message. And in this one, it was just, these are people trying to live their lives. And
the movie could have easily been that.
It could have very easily been that if it wasn't Jeff Nichols.
Right. I could have seen the movie being more about the court case. Like, I was actually glad that there wasn't a court case scene. I mean, like, there wasn't the court scene. Well, there couldn't be
one if they weren't there. But that would have been something you could have been like, oh, well, we'll just change it for creative reasons. No, don't do that.
Well, they would do that, or they would have them like anxiously waiting by the phone, and then like make half the movie about the courtroom drama, which I could easily see a movie done that way, because I usually see movies done that way.
But this was a lot better. So much of the film was slowed down to show like the progress of time, and everything in the movie felt very slow. It felt very organic. With the exception of, there was one part where I thought it was going a little too fast, which was when she was essentially just, like, popping out kids. But I get it, because, like, the rest of the movie was really drawn out. Not to an obnoxious extent, but just really well-paced.
It was kind of funny, though, because she was, like, taking care of one, and then you would see her pregnant, and then she's taking care of 2 kids, and then she's pregnant.
I was like, oh, dear God, she has 3 children. No! What the fuck? I kind of get, like, instinctively panicked when I see people with multiple kids, because that's, like, one of the worst things I can think of. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, no. You have 5 children, and you're pregnant. Why?
That's something that there's a lot less of nowadays, because the economy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was able to build a house, and he was just a builder.
Well, I mean...
And he had a nice car, and...
He had 2 nice cars.
Yeah, it was like...
The family had 2 nice cars.
Our economy is so shitty, because, like, even look at what fucking job he was doing.
He was a construction worker, and he was able to buy an acre of land. They had 2 cars for both of them. He was still able... I mean, here's the thing. They were never living on their own.
No.
The entire time we saw that movie, they were never living on their own. So that's part of it. But also, it's like he was able to provide for his wife and 3 kids and 2 cars. And being poor then is so much nicer than being poor now if you're only looking at this one movie. But, I mean, that's not... It wasn't historically inaccurate, I guess I'll say that.
And, I mean, they did address that in the movie, that he was able to have that because he was white and all that kind of stuff.
Well, part of it, too, is also they were in the country. And that's when they got the 2 cars. They brought both of their cars into the city, so it's not like they bought them there. And... You know, they were always living in groups of people, so it wasn't that expensive. And they were always saying, like, they didn't have money, which is probably true. I guarantee it's true.
No.
But they were able to afford the necessities. And a little bit extra, I guess.
All right, so the next movie that we saw was Arrival.
So to start out with, I don't like Sicario. You like Sicario.
I thought Sicario was interesting. I liked Prisoners more.
Yeah. But you liked Sicario and I didn't. Okay. And then this movie came out, and your reaction was, oh, it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is what you said about It Follows. And you were like, oh, it's supposed to be, like, smart sci-fi. And we gotta see it Thursday night before, like, it can get spoiled. So those were the expectations going in. Was just like... Okay, 150 reviews put it at 100%. You know, it's not like 3 reviews, you know.
And I actively avoided watching any trailer of the movie.
As much as was humanly possible, because YouTube had those long freaking adverts that were unskippable, that were, like, trying to give away the entire movie. Like, if you're gonna have unskippable ads, don't have it be trailers.
I agree.
So those were the expectations. Also, for me, I was like, okay, cool, because the main cast was Amy Adams, who I'm lukewarm on, Hawkeye, I don't know his name, but Hawkeye.
Jeremy Renner,
who, he's okay as Hawkeye, but he is incredibly likable in all of his other roles. Like, him as a drug dealer on Louie was one of the best things ever on that show. So I was excited to see a movie with him not playing a superhero.
Have you seen The Town?
No.
He's really good in that, too.
I'm sure he is. He's a really good actor.
He's also really good in Catherine Bigelow's The Hurt Locker as well. Yeah. That was like his breakout role, too.
Yeah, it was.
Before then, he just played Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
like...
no, I know. So, you know, I was kind of like, okay, cool. Plus, I've been seeing pretty much every major sci-fi movie that's been coming out, especially
because I'm a huge sci-fi fan.
No, it's partly because you're a huge sci-fi fan, but it's also, this was not the case in The Arrival, but in many cases, I'm a lifelong fan of NASA. I grew up just obsessed with NASA, and within the past few years, there has been a lot of collaboration between Hollywood and NASA to work side by side, NASA's essentially helping them with their films in terms of research and footage and that kind of stuff, and they're funding a lot of projects in NASA. So there's a lot of back and forth between the two, and it's a really exciting time to watch both the Hollywood space movies and NASA working in collaboration with each other and seeing like where they develop and where they go. So like I saw Interstellar, which all that footage was only possible because Hollywood provided funding for NASA to conduct the research to find that footage in order to put it in the movie. Like, that's super cool. And The Martian helped fund a lot of what we're seeing come into fruition now with research to colonize Mars. Or to explore Mars and find more out. Like this whole thing where we found out that there is water.
Elon Musk actually like promote
Elon
that
Musk
movie,
is still,
and like he's trying to promote the Mars.
Well, and he's put
trip.
so much money into the Mars trip. Yeah, but things like
which Leonardo DiCaprio says he's going on, which means we will lose Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah,
and not to a bear.
I don't blame him though. But like when that whole big breakout thing came out, where like, oh, there's water on Mars. That entire project was mostly funded, to my understanding, I may be wrong, but that project was funded by The Martian. You know, things like that, it's really cool, and now they're coming out with that Hidden Figures movie, which is completely Oscar bait, I know, but it's about women in NASA, and it's got Janelle Monáe in it, so I'm gonna see that shit and just pretend that Jim Parsons isn't in it. I know he's from fucking Houston, I don't care, he shouldn't be in a movie. So, you know, it's like, okay, this is a new sci-fi movie. Cool. I'm watching the big sci-fi movies coming out. Okay, cool. Let's go see the movie. So we went to go see the movie.
I thought it was really interesting at the very beginning because, like, it's just setting up, you know, these spaceships come. We don't know what's their purpose is, what's happening. And I thought that setup was really good.
The setup was really good. And this film was, on all technical levels, amazingly made.
Yeah, the production design was great. The production
design is on point. The visual effects are stunning. The sound design was so good.
Yeah, I will actually support an Oscar nom for sound design for this film.
For sound design, for production design, for visual effects, I will be on board for all of that because this movie definitely deserves those. Especially production design was so good. And like really complex and layered. And it was interesting. This was one of the most interesting movies to watch the credits. Because the credits were so specific. Mm-hmm. They had specialists on everything. It was cool.
Yeah, I also thought the alien design, while it's not the best alien design that I've seen, I thought it was serviceable. I when you saw the whole alien, I didn't think it worked as much, but I liked the hands of mystery.
When they were hands. What we found out later was that they were not hands.
We'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought it was really interesting, the concept of gravity on the spaceship.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
And
also, Ghostbusters. This is how you do it right. It wasn't that difficult. Because, like, okay, so in Ghostbusters, they start off, and I'm still bitching about Ghostbusters, but I was thinking about this in the theaters. When they start off, they're trying to establish that Abby is, like, a world-famous, like, super expert on quantum physics. And it is never illustrated a single time ever in the entire fucking movie. And in this movie, there is no questioning that, what's her name? Amy Adams' character's name is Louise. There's no questioning that Louise is amazing at what she does. Like, she comes into the classroom, all she does is she starts her lecture on Portuguese. Okay, there, you've established that she knows what the fuck she's talking about. You've established that she's a somewhat decent teacher. Like, that's all you fucking need. It's not hard. And then the entire movie is about her utilizing her expertise
in language to communicate with these aliens. And I thought that was a really cool concept.
It was a really cool concept and well done.
Yeah, and mainly because I haven't seen linguists really be used in movies other than like, oh, we need a translator.
Yeah, and they kind of establish that that's initially why they called her.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, you know, usually the translator is like a side character. You know, it's just like, oh,
she's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
the main person on the forefront. Yeah,
Exactly. And usually when you have a film where there's like one female in the thing, she's like, oh, she's a scientist. I mean, you had this similar to like Contact, which, believe you me, this movie had a lot in common with Contact, and we will get into that later.
Okay, so like that's kind of how I was feeling before the movie. Going through the movie, I was kind of like, this isn't really clicking though, but okay, like it's well made, cool. And the movie was over, and I was like, nah. And then I thought about it for 5 minutes, and I was like, I really don't like this movie. Because when you start thinking about it, everything falls the fuck apart. Because when you start thinking about it, you realize that it's interstellar light, which was already Contact light. So that was pretty bad. It was like the science of it, and like the whole philosophy of the answer to science is love was really, really similar to Interstellar. And the whole thing of like, you know, the scientist going through space and time to try to find her child was very Interstellar.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the film, you realize, okay, to Hawkeye dude's credit, thank God they hired an actor that fucking likable, like that inherently likable, because they did not do that character any justice with the script.
Also, there wasn't any romantic chemistry between them except for that moment.
I did want to bring that up in Loving, like, fuck, I forgot, because I wanted to bring that up. The chemistry was so good.
Well, that should be a given, but yeah.
No, but like, it was amazing because they weren't always intimate physically, but they were always so in tune with each other that like even when they were across the room or they were across the yard, and they did a really good job of going back and forth between she's in tune to what's going on with him and he's in tune with what's going on with her. That chemistry just like, it felt so real and so like you just wanted to be like carried away by their romance, you know.
It's sort of a Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre
I thought it was a little better than that, but yeah.
Read the book.
Oh, yes, I am basing this off the movie, yeah. But in contrast, yeah, they spent no time on the romance in Arrival. Like, they spend almost none of the movie is about them being in a relationship at all.
Yeah,
it was like about maybe 3 minutes of the entire film. And then the ending. Let's make a baby.
All right, let's backtrack.
Yeah, let's lay this out plot point by plot point, because once you start doing that, this is where it falls apart.
Yeah, because I don't want to just say that this movie is bad and all that kind of stuff, especially when it's 100% without making a compelling argument.
No, for sure. So, like, because here's the thing. Very well-made movie. To me, the problem is the script and the story is where everything falls apart.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah, the rest of it was so well done and so meticulous that it's depressing. Great. Amy Adams was serviceable. I'm never really impressed by Amy Adams personally. I'm excited to see her. I have not seen Doubt, but
Doubt was like one where I'm
excited to see her in Nocturnal Animals. I'm not like, I don't dislike Amy Adams. I'm just never blown away by her.
Crap. Did you see American Hustle?
No.
She was good in that.
I'm sure she was. I'm just saying, I don't think she's a terrible actress. I don't dislike her at all. But she's one of those people that always seems like she's just kind of there.
I kind of like...
She does okay.
I kind of like how she's a plain Jane pretty actress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's an element of normality to her.
Yeah, she looks like a normal person instead of like Nicole Kidman, who just no matter what she does looks like a Barbie doll.
Yeah, or Jennifer Lawrence now. But like you go back to like Winter's Bone, yeah, she looks like a regular fucking person now.
Yeah,
she's like smoking hot actress and everything like that.
Okay, so here's the story. Amy Adams is telling the story about her relationship with her daughter, and she doesn't believe that there's a beginning, middle, or end to the story. Everything is synonymous, but she had a daughter, and they were very close, and her daughter got sick at a young age, like as a teenager, and she died. That's like the setup.
And that's like the first 5 minutes.
That's like
of
the first
movie.
5. It's probably like 3 minutes, but yeah. That's like a montage.
It's incredibly short. It's like the montage, and it's trying to imitate the montage in Up.
Yeah, exactly. But that's at the very beginning. And then you find out, oh, she's a linguist professor. So she's going in to teach her class, and there are almost no students in the class. So she's like, okay, well, we're going to have our lecture now. And everybody's cell phone starts going off. And one of the students asks her to turn the news on. And she does. And by the way, there may or may not have been any story if this didn't happen. No, there would have been. But she turns the news on, and there have been unidentified aircrafts appearing in different locations, and nobody knows which country they're from. And then it starts being speculated about whether it's from any country, if it's from beyond Earth. Like, there's some question about what it is.
So a realistic portrayal of what contact with, apparent UFOs in the world would be.
Yeah,
not
because
like,
if you saw...
oh, it's alien immediately.
Exactly.
You know, like first... of course you're going to have people like Alex Jones and shit like that saying, oh, it's aliens. But for the most part, most people will be like, oh, this is an unidentified flying object. We
what
don't
country
know
is this from? Is this from Russia? Is it from China? But then they started to realize that there were different spaceships all over the world. And that's when they started questioning if it was even from our planet. Because it was everywhere. And they couldn't figure out throughout the movie, why they appeared in these different locations, and they're trying to figure it out. And so she is in her office, and she's, watching the news on this, and somebody from is it the CIA or the FBI? It's the FBI, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah. Somebody from the FBI, which is Forrest Whitaker's character, comes up to her and is like, hey, you translated something for us before. You immediately establish, okay, she's worked with them before.
She translated Farsi.
Yeah, she translated Farsi.
Which is a known language, so I'm like, oh, okay.
No, but they established they've worked with her before, she has government clearance, that sort of thing. And again, that just props up her character. You can see she has these credentials. This is what she does. And they give her a tape, and it's this, bizarre noise. It doesn't sound like anything. And she's trying to ask them questions, and she wants to get in and see what the fuck this is. And she's like, okay, well, I have to be there. And they're like, we see what you're doing. You can't be there. And she's like, okay, well, you're going to go see some other guy, right? Well, make sure you ask him this question. It was a trick question. It was like, what is Sanskrit word for war, and what does it translate to? And he answered it wrong. And it was this cute thing. But eventually they recruit her, and she's going to go be the translator and try to work with these aliens. And she meets a mathematician who's also going to try to work with the aliens. They're going to try to do language and science because they're female and male, and it's the opposing sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
That was red flag number 1. Because it got a lot worse than that, but... Well,
I think it's interesting because, what we'll get into later, talking about the film is one thing that's known... not known, but one thing that is a common, I would say, misperception is that women represent life and men represent death. The
other thing too is
the yin and yang of
also women
humanity.
Present emotions and men represent intellectualism. And that's not particularly true. So they have some cute quips, whatever. And then they get brought into this military facility. They're going to go up in the spaceship, and they see the aliens for the first time, and they're these big hands.
Well, you don't even see the hands at first. You just hear, the language.
You hear, the language, and it's kind of like whale sonar, almost. That's kind of what I thought it was.
That's a fair assessment, yeah.
Yeah. So she decides the second time that they go up, since they're not really able to interpret the language... oh, what if I write something? Maybe they write. And so the aliens have this thing where they put out their hands to look like these big starfish, and they do these squid sort of ink squirts, and the ink squirts turn into words. But not like English words. It's like a symbol.
Well, yeah, and then it's long, complex sentences in a circle.
Yeah, exactly. So the majority of the film is her putting together what this language means and how it works, which was all super interesting to me personally. I was super compelled by the way that this language worked and how the like artistically the style of the structure was, and it was all very, at least from me watching it one time, it was all extremely well designed and all very consistent. Like, the consistency of this language was through the roof, as far as I could see.
All right, and let's not forget that the aliens' names were
Abbott and Costello, which is super cute, yes. And Abbott was my favorite. So that was, like, a majority of this movie. So I'm just along with this movie in the theater. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. The science is interesting. It's really cool that we're focusing on something, like, really out there, like, how this works, you know? They're trying to figure out what the aliens want and why they're there, but then there's also this political underlying of all the world leaders are trying to work with the aliens separately, and they're all trying to figure out why they're there, and they're all worried about should they attack the aliens, should they not attack the aliens, should they attack each other for the information that they get, how much do we cooperate with another, and how much do we hide from each other, which was also super interesting.
Yeah.
Really fascinating stuff.
The build up and everything like that. The sci-fi elements,
was super good.
The speculation and all that kind of stuff. Like what would happen if we came in contact with alien life, and like
was really well researched, really well thought out.
Yeah, I mean, I was compelled through the majority of this movie.
Exactly, and throughout it, she gets like these visions of her daughter who died. But it's kind of like sprinkled in there to give her more character.
But it's like the same shit over and over again.
It is the same shit over and over again. Because, like, when you see it in the montage at the beginning, I liked how much personality the little girl had for just a couple scenes. And then once you start seeing it over and over again, she just starts feeling really artificial.
And it's kind of depressing because, like, in Contact, Jodie Foster's character, at the very beginning of the movie, I think is played by Melissa Malone. I think that's the right
Alyssa
name.
Milano?
No, Melissa Malone. She was in Sucker Punch, and she's been in
okay.
Donnie Darko, a couple things.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but it's her as an actress, and she's like having she's with her father and all that kind of stuff. Like, there's a setup.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the connection between her and her father in that movie.
Yes.
I do not feel the connection between her and her daughter in this movie because the daughter feels like a construct. The daughter just
a big part of the reason why she feels like a construct is because she's eternally very, very young and doesn't know what's going on. You almost never, in the entire film, almost never see her as a teenager when she has a definitive personality. And after that first montage, you never see her sick, you never see her dying, you never see her struggling. She's eternally this very young, wide-eyed, basically just old enough to not be an obnoxious wailing baby. And it's a big part of what makes her really artificial.
But is that partly based on the knowledge of the character?
No, I really just think that that's why she's included. She's just there to make you feel bad because she's so young. And she's a widow baby.
Well, what I'm saying is because... what's her name?
Hannah? Louise. The daughter's name is Hannah. The mother's name is Louise.
Right, because it's a palindrome.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I thought was interesting was how her relation with the daughter like starts to reveal that her perception of time is disjointed.
Right, and this is where A, things got bad, and B, where it fell apart. Because part of it is you realize as the movie goes on that not only does she have a daughter, she was divorced. Okay, fine. Her husband left her, whatever. And
which
she has like this weird... we don't see this. We don't know who the dad is. We don't know anything. And she has this one really bizarre dream, and I loved the way that they broke the 180 rule. Because it just felt like so bizarre and out of place, and really added to that like very surreal essence to it. I really like that. But as far as we can tell, these are just flashbacks. And then we find out that through the we find out when she confronts the aliens have been helping her see into the future. And she has been having all of these visions of things that hadn't happened yet. So we know she is going to have a kid and she's gonna get married and get divorced. Okay, fine. Twist! But you kind of like recalibrate pretty quickly. Okay, fine. This is the biggest issue. The climax of the story, in terms of what's interesting, is Abbott dies, and that was super sad. I was so sad. Abbott died.
Let's explain. So, because of the fear of the aliens, and because the aliens said that there was, they said use weapon,
right?
You know, and
they weren't sure if they understood if like the humans weren't sure if the aliens understood what weapon meant. Maybe they meant tool. Maybe they meant like whatever. Maybe they didn't mean use a weapon to kill each other, to kill us, like whatever.
Right.
It was very ambiguous.
But some of the people in the army, I think it was, some of
the military is all over the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But
including the FBI, including the army. Yeah.
Well, some of the cats that they had there, you know, decided, no, fuck that. You know, these aliens are a threat. We're going to blow them up.
Okay. And strike number one, the antagonist in this movie was stupid. Because you see this character and you know he's going to be a big player because you just, in every fucking scene, you keep looking at his face and he does nothing. And then
he was given no agency. He
was given no agency.
Bullshit.
He had no personality. He spoke twice in the entire film. Once he was talking to his wife, and the conversation was just, his wife was concerned about where he was, and he said, I can't tell you, but I'm safe. Everything's fine. Nothing's bad's going to happen.
And it's funny because he had actually less screen time than the crazy evangelist in Contact.
Yeah.
And the evangelist had
was
more
so
character.
Much better developed.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Because like you saw him with his congregation, you saw all this kind of stuff, and then you saw him blow up the fucking
right. And in this
ship.
movie, you see him reassure his wife that everything's fine, and as far as we know, everything is fine. Then you see him say, maybe we should hurt the aliens first. And everyone's like, no, we don't want to do that. And then you see him try to blow it up.
Yeah, he's also like watching
it.
He's watching something like Alex Jones or you know.
He was
like
watching some stupid YouTube blog, like of like conspiracy theories from
Jesse
the outside
Ventura,
world, yeah,
you know,
something
that
like that.
stuff.
Yeah. So you see him say that everything's fine and he's not concerned. You see him say, "We need to blow the aliens up first," and everyone's like, "No, we're not going to do that." Then you see him blow up the aliens, and that's his entire character arc. He was about like. That was one of the worst developed antagonists ever, except for fucking Ghostbusters. Like,
oh my god! If you want us to get back into Ghostbusters, I think we should do a retrospective review.
Part of the reason why I compare everything to Ghostbusters is because Ghostbusters is bad on so many levels that you could compare it to anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I do know that many people probably want us to talk about Ghostbusters based on the view count. Mm-hmm. I definitely think that we should get back to Ghostbusters 2016 for at least one or two more times.
Okay. Well, so once that happened, so once that happened, Louise is personally invited into the spaceship in this special secluded way, and it turns out that Abbott died, and Costello tells her that she can see the future, and it was right before the blow up. I'm getting things mixed up. Right before the blow up,
your concept of timing is messed up.
So before the explosion, they found out that the aliens did not mean weapon, they did not mean attack anyone, they did not mean war. So that's already off the table. And they gave them like a million symbols, and they didn't know what it meant. And so then she comes into the spaceship, and they're like, "You can see into the future. We gave you a gift because we need your help in 3,000 years. But for now, we're giving this to you in exchange for that." First of all, we never find out in the entire film what the fuck they need our help with in the next 3,000 years. We have no idea why.
That's one of the things that I always see as like really cheap shorthand in sci-fi, where it's like, oh, this is too complex, so we're just not going to say what it is.
Yeah, we're just not going to explain this. And then here's the other thing. That's pretty much it for the aliens for the rest of the movie. That's pretty much it with them. So, what we found out is that the aliens cannot travel through time and space. They can just see forwards and backwards.
Their concept of time is not linear like
exactly.
ours. Like
which is symbolic in their language. Their language is not linear, but their language is also a circle, which represents the circle of life and death. Okay, yes. So we're on board with that. But here's the thing. When you start thinking about it for a second, it's like, okay, so wait a minute. They don't have eyes. They don't communicate telepathically as far as we know. They're just weird hands inside of a spaceship. Not really, but I'll get to that in a second. And they somehow have a written language for what purpose? Because as far as we can see in the movie, they don't communicate with each other through this written language. Why have they, like, from an evolutionary standpoint, why have they evolved to have this language? Unless, like, it was specifically to communicate with the humans, but if it was to communicate with the humans, why can't they, like, if they can see into the future and see that they learn how to speak English, essentially, why can't they write in English when they get there? You know, things like that. Because
their concepts of the language wouldn't be concrete enough for them to communicate that way. And I think the reason why they used that was because in the scene when she first, the second time, it was like the second or third time where she actually, like, you know, got the tablet and then wrote
she
human,
can write,
and then she wrote her name and all that stuff. I think that was the aliens trying to come up with a means to communicate with them.
Yes, but then it's like, if you see Louise look into the future, she can look into the future to see, oh, in order to help things in the future, I need to say these phrases to this person at this number at this time. But the aliens never act that way.
Well, no, because, like, when she communicated with the leader of China,
General Shang.
Yeah, when she communicated with the general, she was literally asking him all the questions, context clues. Like, she's like, oh, well, what did you say? What was your number? All of that stuff.
Right, but it's like, in the present moment, she was having visions of the future that were telling her she had to say this, 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 and this. But the aliens never do anything close to that. If they can look into the future and see that they learned how to speak English, then why can't they, in that moment, be like, hey guys, we're trying to help you out. We want to give you this gift, and not use the word weapon, for example. You know, like, that just never happens. Like, the logic is really inconsistent. Even though, like, a lot of the production and a lot of the research was very consistent, a lot of the storytelling aspects were not consistent at all.
I don't necessarily see that as that much of a slight, just because, you know, the problem is communication.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this is something that we know, you know, just using our own language, that some words and phrases mean different things to different people at different times.
I mean, I guess part of it is just, like,
in 3,000
years, the aliens were the interesting part, but they didn't develop the aliens very much throughout the film because they were so preoccupied with this other storyline of her and her daughter. What is the mystery of her and her daughter? And she loves her daughter so much, and that is her meaning in life, and all this stuff. Because what happens is that after she talks to the aliens and she understands what the gift is, and she and Hawkeye put it together, and they figure out, like, oh, they give us their entire language. We can work with everybody else on the planet. She single-handedly achieves world peace by calling a peace treaty with the General of China herself, and by promoting this language as, like, a universal language that we can all use to communicate with one another. This is the biggest thing that any human being could ever achieve in all of history, and it's given a grand total of maybe 4 minutes of screen time. Because what she learns on that spaceship that's so much more important is that her meaning in life is to have a kid. She goes into a spaceship shaped like a giant vagina and talks to these 2 aliens that look like fucking fallopian tubes, and learns that even though she is a very accomplished, intelligent, independent woman who literally changes the entire course of humanity going forward into time, that really the biggest thing that will ever happen to her in her life is settling down and having a kid.
Also, once once she has her communications with the aliens alone, their ships go into the horizontal position, like the missionary position, and therefore she finds out that her true meaning in life is to have a child.
Yes. Because what is given more screen time than world fucking peace? What is given more screen time than her, fucking spreading this language throughout the entire world? What is given much more screen time than her working with multiple world leaders? Okay, how to put this? She learns that her destiny and her future is that she is gonna hook up with the mathematician dude, and they're gonna have a baby, and the baby's gonna be the most amazing thing in her life, and then she is going to tell her husband that her daughter is gonna get sick and die, but she chose to have the child anyway, and he's gonna say that she made the wrong choice, and he is gonna divorce her, and that's gonna hurt the daughter, but she's gonna work with the daughter and be really shitty towards the divorced dad, and the daughter's gonna grow up and then get sick and die. And so basically what she's learning is that her purpose is to have a kid, and B, that she suddenly has no agency in her own life. All of a sudden, she knows what her future is going to be, and she can't make any choices to change it.
Yeah, and that's very un-Buddhist, which I understand that there's a concept of fate, which some people believe that, like, your future is predetermined. Like, there's nothing you can do to change your future. Like, everything you do is predetermined. I personally reject that notion. I would love to see my future, to see what things I'd like to fucking change.
Exactly. It's ridiculous, especially because, like, this film could have had a political message of A, how do we achieve world peace? B, why should we achieve world peace? And C, how do we maintain it? The movie could have been about that and have been way more fucking interesting. And you could have had Louise have a family and all that stuff, and that could have been fine and played into the plot. But the way that the film handles it is that it's specifically saying that because she's a woman, her main objective in life is to go home because the home is where the woman belongs, and the most important thing she can do is have a kid.
To be fair, I have not read the story that this movie is based on, which is called The Story of Our Lives, which makes it sound like the actual story to this, the actual story that this movie is based on is even more of that.
Which sounds worse to me, honestly. Because, I'm sorry, this stuff with her kid and the stuff with her marriage, because it was so artificial, partly, was boring in comparison to, like, this whole huge earth-changing, like, intergalactic, political, scientific, like, everything put together thing. That was more than enough to compel an entire movie. And that ended up getting sidelined for the sake of showing a woman that her true calling is to have a kid. Also, even if the kid dies.
Also, if you want to watch a movie about aliens trying to achieve world peace, watch the original The Day the Earth Stood Still. Mm-hmm. It's much more compelling than this film.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of the reason why I got mad once it was over, was A, I was like, this shit is way more sexist than I ever expected.
Oh, sexist, are you triggered? Are you a social justice warrior?
Yep. Yes, I know. This is me going into a sci-fi film and saying, look at how shitty this is towards women, but it's like, dude, who the fuck stays home and raises a kid anymore? Like, women don't
That's what
really...
women are supposed to do.
But that's not even what women do anymore. Women still do shit. Like, this was the other thing, is that in her post-child life, she wasn't doing anything new. She was essentially a washed-up has-been who was going over the same shit that she had already done. Like, literally the only thing she studied after this was this language thing. She didn't proceed to, like, break grounds on any new research. She didn't do anything else for the government. She just wrote a book about it. And that was about it.
Here's the thing.
Then she had to dedicate to her daughter. Like, it's just like, dude, come on.
Also, if you achieve world fucking peace, I think you can retire after that. Like,
I think that is the biggest thing you will ever accomplish.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you be...
You can feel good about yourself now.
Why would you be teaching after that?
Yeah, well, because she was teaching this language to spread it as this means of keeping world peace. Like, it's a universal method of communication.
Well, okay, if you... Okay,
But,
I get that.
But, like, if you look at... She's not teaching this in a college. She's teaching this to, like, world leaders. Yeah. Like, right after the fact.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but she wasn't really working.
Which is good, because, like, yeah, if you achieve world fucking peace, like that's one exception where, yeah, you don't have to work a single fucking day in your life if you do that.
How much does achieving world peace pay? I'm just saying, do you get a lifetime supply of $100,000 installments?
I mean, if you achieve world peace, what the fuck's the need for the military then?
Well, yeah, but like she still has to make an income.
Exactly. Okay.
So she still has to work. But also, it's not like she hated... Like, she loved doing what she did. Well, even if she could quit, why would she?
But
because she has to go home and pop out a kid.
But I think if you achieve world peace, that, like, you should pretty much be paid for the rest of your fucking life.
Well, you should be, but probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I guess so. God, I fucking hate our economy.
But I mean, I also had this problem with Sicario too, where I was watching it and it was like, okay, so you have this woman who works for the CIA, which means that she has a certain amount of training and she has to be capable to a certain extent. And you, A, make her completely pointless to the narrative and to the plot, and B, you have her completely helpless to save herself and she has to be saved by a man at every turn. Like, she was the most incapable fucking person ever. She was so obnoxious in that movie because she couldn't do anything fucking right. It's like, dude, you're in the CIA. Why can't you do anything right? And I'm watching this movie where it's like, that's nice, honey. Now go home. Like, go home and have a kid because that's a woman's place. And I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. I will say, I must be like pretty social justice warrior-y because my top 5 worst films of the year are all pretty damn sexist. That's not why they're the worst films, but that's been a consistent contributing factor this year.
Okay, so I totally forgot. I just checked his filmography, and he's had a really mixed filmography. And some of it's going to be things that you'll be happy about, and other things you'll be pretty mad about. So he directed Prisoners. He directed Enemy, which was a really fascinating film. Really, really low key. Jake Gyllenhaal meeting Jake Gyllenhaal. It's 2 Jake Gyllenhaals. It's kind of an interesting movie about, like, what would it be like if you met yourself?
Okay.
Or like a different version of yourself. And I think he does a much better job with directing men.
Yeah,
but, like,
clearly.
But at the same time, he directed Incendies, which is absolutely fucking amazing. Like, I totally forgot watch Incendies.
Okay.
Like, guarantee you'll fucking love that movie. But, like...
Okay.
That actually makes me mad now, because, like, it's like, wait, this guy fucking directed Incendies? That movie is so fucked up, so powerful, and it stars a woman, and all this kind of stuff. So, like, what the fuck? Also, he's directing the new Blade Runner movie.
Okay.
So.
Well, the only thing of his I've seen is Sicario and this film, and I am less than impressed, to put it mildly. So I came out of it, I immediately went, meh, and then went, no, fuck this. You liked it. Until I talked to you about it.
Yeah. Because you were talking to me, and, like...
Because as soon as the movie was over, I turned to you and I was like, do you like it or do you not like it? Because I was like, meh. And you were like, I really liked it.
Yeah.
To be fair, it was extremely well made, as we've been over. It has a lot of good qualities.
Yeah, I think the weakness is in the story, especially with the relationship with the daughter. Like, if you're gonna fucking do that, I need more.
Yes.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Or you need to come up with better points.
See, here's the problem, is that as well developed as Louise may or may not have been, no one else in the film was developed at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was just pretty much her and Abbott and Costello and Jeremy Renner's character.
And he was like... only decent because he's naturally very charismatic. If you had picked anybody who was a mediocre actor, there would have been nothing there.
Yeah, and that whole relationship would have fallen flat.
Mm-hmm. It already did fall pretty flat. There was no relationship.
It would have turned the movie from, like, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes to, like, 70% probably. Which, let's get into that. 100%.
Well, wait. Before we do, what is your final takeaway from this movie?
My final takeaway is it is the sum of all parts doesn't equal the whole. Yes. Like it's a very good setup for a rather mediocre story. It's typical. It's the typical frustration that I have with a lot of sci-fi movies, where they probably had a much more complex and interesting idea at one point, and they decided that audiences wouldn't get it, and so they dumb it down.
See, I think it was actually the other way around. I mean, this is all conjecture. I have no idea. But my feeling is that there was a fairly mediocre script that many people involved in production were able to pull out elements and really elevate those elements and make them really intriguing and really well developed and consistent throughout the film. You know, I could see production designers and sound designers and researchers and visual effects artists working collaboratively and taking little bits from the script and developing them into something a lot better than what the screenwriter and director had possibly had in mind.
Yeah, it seems like the production design team could have possibly helped change the story.
I really feel like that happened a lot in this film. Like, I really commend a lot of very hardworking artists in making a very mediocre story a lot better than it could have been.
Yeah, because the story that the production design team was telling was 5 times more interesting than what the movie was telling.
Yes. I definitely agree. What, did he write and direct it, or was it a different screenwriter?
I think he was part of the writing team, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I think I saw that in the credits.
I think so too, but I just want to double check. Hang on. No, it's Eric. I can't say that. So it's essentially one writer, and they gave a writing credit to the person who wrote the original book. But he has also he wrote the screenplay for the new Van Helsing. Oh. He wrote Lights Out, Hours, the remake of The Thing, Final Destination 5, A Nightmare on Elm Street remake, and one episode of Stranger Adventures, which I've never heard of and I don't know anything about.
Based on that's filmography,
a pretty bad filmography. Jesus Christ!
I'm actually impressed.
I'm impressed that he managed to write something that wasn't another Final Destination, I guess.
Like,
wow.
I mean, based on that information, like it's the best movie that could have been made with that screenwriter.
That's quite possible.
All right, so Arrival is an interesting film. It's definitely an interesting thought experiment. For the most part, I thought all the elements worked. Like it's decent, but it's by no means like an amazing film at all. It's mediocre at best for me.
Yeah, it's exactly in the middle for me because
there's so much there that I can't say it's a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie, but I give it 5 out of 10. And the 5 go entirely to everyone else involved in the movie. Like, for them, it's 5 out of 5. But because of the story and the underlying theme, that the most important thing in life is having a kid that you're biologically related to, regardless of whether or not they survive, which is fucking weird. Yeah, that cuts it in half for me. I was pretty miffed about that.
I would say it's a 6 or a 7 for me, but like that's not great for me. Like that's like serviceable. I'm not bored. Like when it starts going the other way, that means that I'm bored. That means I'm angry, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, like, this was a movie that I didn't get mad at until after it was over, I guess.
I mean, I was compelled.
Yeah.
For like a good period of time, so I can't give the movie a negative point for that. Like, I have to say that that's positive.
I mean, for me, that would only raise it to a 6 out of 10. That's still not good.
All right, so let us know what you thought of Arrival and Loving.
And any other film news going on in the world today?
Yeah, definitely hit us with some film news. We would love to talk about it, and hopefully you would love to hear us talk about it. That's one thing that I do want to open up. I want to be more communicative with the people who listen to us. I don't know if I call them fans, but it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so thanks for listening.